overcomes the former
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As usual, como siempre, vamos a tener un buen show para ver. Whoa, who just sent that humongous? Eric Hayes, don't do that. That is you can't put that much stuff that big into the chat. My God, that is huge. It just exploded on me. I don't know what you're trying to say. I can't read all of that. Let's see what we got here. We got AVQ is in the house. Good afternoon, brother AVQ. Michael Ruddin from Brooklyn, New York. He says, I'm on my way out. Catch you tomorrow. So he comes in and then he goes out. I hope you stick around long enough to say, hey, all. Bridge MCP is in the house. She says, hey, peeps. Hey, all. Bridge from Binghamton, New York. upstate New York, that is. Melanie Keelan says, Happy Tuesday, everybody. Melanie Keelan is from Barcelona, Spain. We also have in the house, as she says, how's the house going? It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. But I think you mean with Bridge, right? Still standing, LOL, she says. Melanie Keelan, that's a lot. Okay, did I miss something about Bridge's house? I better go search Facebook. I got a lot of times I don't get messages. I don't know what's going on these days. Melanie Keelan says, I spent my Easter break deep cleaning. Oh, we need to deep clean this house, but there's been so much happening right now that we hadn't had a chance to do a whole lot right now. Okay. Post a paragraph or two, then the link. Exactly. Come on, Eric. That's how you do it. Let's see. Eric says, great response. Think about what you decided. Instead of blowing all this money on what is supposed to be an education, but what turns out to be an indoctrination and lack of appreciation of what this country represents in the free world, learn a trade. Don't be afraid to work for an honest. I don't know what you mean by instead of an indoctrination and lack of appreciation for what this country represents. Please, Eric, tell me what this country represents in your view. Eric says, billionaire earned it and family benefits from it, and that is what makes success in 1968. Duncan and two partners founded Enterprise Products with $10,000 and two propane delivery trucks. Next came construction of a fractionator, Bellevue, and soon a small midstream company began its trek toward midstream powerhouse. Full revenue, $20,000, $58 billion. I don't know what you're trying to say. I don't think anybody is going to take away anything from somebody who started a company with $10,000 in 1968. Now, I hope you're cognizant about what $10,000 was really worth in 1968. But the second thing about it is, to build that company, they didn't do it alone. Yeah, they may have had the idea and they may have worked their butts off to move those propane tanks, and I agree with all of that. But don't dare sit down and believe that they didn't have the support of community, that they didn't have support of the roads that we all built, that they didn't have support of the educational system that educated the people who helped them form the company at all. And this stuff about for those who don't understand what America means, when you talk to a whole lot of people in America whose back America was built on, don't dare tell them we don't know what America means. For all the slaves that built this country, don't dare tell them you don't know what America means. For the Chinese that came over here and built the Pacific Railroad, don't dare tell them we don't know what America means. For the native Indians whose lands were taken, who genocidally were marched in the Trail of Tears, who after signing treaties for the Black Mountains, lost it all when gold was found, and the settlers took it all. Don't tell us we don't know what America stands for or what America means. You may think in your in what you've learned, what you've been indoctrinated on in America, that we don't know. You see, many of us know what America means, and in spite of what America means, we decide to make America better. Because one of the great things about America is it had the opportunity to grow. But it's disingenuous of you, my dear brother. It is unfortunate and it's sad, and it's a disloyal representation to all the other people in this country that can tell you America wasn't built on milk and honey and just the labor that you're willing to put in. Because there are many who put a hell of a lot of labor into this country who got zilch out of it. So please, take the glory, glory, hallelujah, and smoke it, brother, because that's what it's worth. Smoke. Madre mia, carajo. All right, let's continue. Before I continue with my presentation, what I said is, I didn't say PDR says all billionaires are bad. What I say, and I want everybody to understand, nobody, I repeat, there is not one living billionaire that has earned $1 billion in today's dollars. I repeat, and anybody wants to go through the numbers and argue that, I welcome you. There's not one billionaire that has earned it. Not one. Thank you. All right, continuing. Israel immediately kills 7 World Kitchen Aid workers who just left a WCK pier depot with clear markings. I mean, the Netanyahu government and the IDF, they are war criminals. They are murderers, and I don't say this lightly. I don't say this facetiously. I don't say this without a complete thought process. These are murderous, genocidal animals. Okay? If you really want to define people that can kill 33,000 people, destroy any form of infrastructure that allows them a life, and at the same time, blow up AIDS trucks that are clearly marked. If you think that's an accident, I've got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. All right. Ben Letty says, I think Bridge is doing home refurbishment. Okay. And if Bridge usually send me a little picture or something of her latest project, I'd love to see that. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Good afternoon, everyone from Maywood, who is from Long Beach, California. We also have, let's see, Paravet. Bree says Melanie Keelan. Now that's a private conversation. Eric says better or great again. No, there you can't be. You were look. We are trying to make America better. We're not trying to make America great again. Because for all those people who lived in the past, for those people who were slaves, for women, all these are, I can name you various different groups. They cannot say America was great. Okay? Please learn, educate yourself, understand why people feel the way that they feel. It's important. Okay? It is important. All right. I got my first video to show today, and I think I want to show the one as far as why Democrats should win in a landslide in November, but we have to do the work. And I give an example of of going on to Nextdoor. Nextdoor is a localized social media site, and it's in every city. And you know what they try to do is keep people talking to people in the same vicinity. Nextdoor.com. I'm pretty sure many of you have seen it or are part of it. And I started going into Nextdoor to do my part. In other words, I read my Nextdoor, and if I see somebody who posts something silly or whatever, I try to go ahead and mitigate that with some truths. And notice I said with some truths, I do it in a very respectful manner. And it is something that I think many others should do. I think everybody should do it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give an example of how I do it. But first of all, let me go ahead and play the video that I did last night on that interaction of an example of what I say we need to do. Let's go ahead and do that now. Here's the deal. I speak to a lot of people, whether on the right, on the left, in the middle, everywhere. MAGA, I speak to everybody. And I can tell you one thing. The path is really, really there for us to win, meaning progressives and Democrats, to win 2024, not by a nick, but by a landslide. But what we have to do is we have to be pragmatic. We have to do the work. We have to follow the path that's been laid out there, believe it or not, by the Republicans to give us the victory. They are the ones that have put the asphalt on the broken pavement needed to win. Democrats and progressives should simply follow it, but most importantly, they have to engage. Republicans have all but ceded women's autonomy over their bodies and lives, Medicare, Social Security rights, child care assistance, a living wage, and more. Elections are not often won on policy alone, but one has to connect these issues to personalize them for individuals so that those receiving the message map it to their wants and needs, map it to the things that mean the most to them, the carnality of their being. That is how it's done. Republicans have done that all along. They've understood that. They've understood that you have to connect what you claim you're going to do to what people think that they want what they need, and that's what we have to do. And we also have to engage, lay the groundwork. What I always used to tell people is, the truth is sort of the softening mechanism. You throw out the truth out there so that it's there. It is like in the olden days of war, you had the battleships softening up the beachhead, right? And then the cavalry came in. I mean, earlier today, I was on the local social media site in my town called Next Door. And I am going to put the exchange that I did in the correspondent blog for this particular piece here. So there's a correspondent blog for this video. But what happened is one person sent a message on the board, and they said, the new mayor of Houston says that Houston is broke, and they are going to have to find many ways to raise revenue to pay for all the things that Houston needs them to pay for, repairing streets, a big new firemen's contract, etc. And a person gave a one-line response after this guy wanted to know how we thought it would affect his taxes. She just said, most Democratic run states and sanctuary cities are broke. You get what you vote for. To which I gave a long, measured, civil response. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can read it for the correspondent blog. But I said the most dangerous thing for our democracy is an uninformed or misinformed citizenry. I know in some media purported as news, it would have many of our good Republican brothers and sisters fall for the belief that party correlates to a city, municipality, or state being broke. That is often the case, but not in the way many have been programmed to believe. So let's be clear. Most red states are taking more money from the federal government than they contribute. More blue states, or most blue states, subsidize the red states. Why? Because red states refuse to tax commensurate with the needs of their states, while they accuse blue states of taxing too much, even as they subsidize the red states. The reality is that for very technical reasons, if one wanted to research rather than parrot talking points from a controlling misinformation machine, most large cities face financial hurdles irrespective of party control. And then I stated a lot of other realities again in a very civil manner. But remember how she ended her comment. She said, you get what you vote for. So the last sentence that I placed, I said, many people read these blurbs. When you see misinformation, please do not let it go uncorrected. Democracy requires an educated population. Otherwise, it morphs into an autocracy controlled by a sect that has neither your interests nor mine. We must take responsibility. And again, I try to keep the tone in such a manner that it doesn't seem like I'm just fighting this person, but I'm not really just talking to this person. I am actually talking to the entire feed so that folks that are on the margins or wherever will actually have something to hold on to. That is how we win. It's not one person doing this, it's all of us doing this in a manner that we foment, that we create that communication. And this is not a question. I've actually seen it work in my very red area where folks, they're not changing to become Democrats or progressives. But the one thing they're doing is in fact, some have told me directly that they're voting in their interest. They are not no damn liberal or no damn Democrat, but they're going to vote their interest. That's all we want. That's all we ask for. If someone is voting their interests, they're voting for us, whether they want to call themselves part of us or not. We spend a lot of time And that is what's important. Now on the screen, there's a piece. I should have said this in the video further, but when she said most Democratic-run states and sanctuary states are broke, you get what you vote for. My direct answer to that is, folks, if we are to move forward as a democratic country, we must not allow misinformation to flourish. As an example, you get what you vote for. As an example, we pay billions in taxes for healthcare, yet our fiscally responsible state legislature leaves these billions on the table for ideological reasons. We're entitled to monies to ensure millions of Texans, this is your mother, your brother, your father, your sister, your aunt, who are uninsured by the choice of, not you, by the choice of the state of Texas. So many die because our legislature, who purports to center on life, refuses the implementation of the Medicare expansion to the Affordable Care Act. Many people read these blurbs and they need to understand it. How many people who would talk this crap on next door doesn't realize that the reason their mother, their father, their brother, their sister don't have health care is not because of some liberal undertaking, but because their state government simply decided they, for ideological reason, they would leave billions, and I repeat, they would leave billions of dollars on the table just not to accept the federal the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. And what that means is several Texans die every year. So what do you call somebody who creates or causes voluntary murder? They are homicidal criminals. That's what they are. That's what I consider our current the Republicans in our legislature, who that is what they bring to us. Now, Paul says anyone who, before, let me say, welcome aboard Bruce Pollard from Kingwood, Texas. How are you doing, my brother? Let's see. We have Paul says, I just wanted to read this one here. I said, okay, there we go. Paul says, anyone who's upset that California fast food workers at major national chains will start earning $20 needs to realize that the minimum wage would actually be at least $24 per hour if it had been raised. And that is a statement of fact. And let me tell you better. What it also means is that those people who did get, as every year inflation went up, right? And workers stayed at the same minimum wage. That is also a form of wage theft. Let me explain. When inflation goes up every year, the owners of businesses, the light company, like our water bill is going to be going up by 10%, right? I can't tell the water company, I'm not giving you 10% for the increase in cost in water. I can't tell the person who makes the flour, I'm not going to pay the 10% raise in the flour over these several years. I can't tell the electrical company that I'm not going to pay the electrician bills. I can't tell any of these people that I'm not going to pay the increased costs for those charges, right? But here's what you want us to tell the worker, the American worker. Even as we are, as business owners, forced to pay the extra utility bills, etc., we tell the people at large, we don't want to raise the wages as small businessmen or corporations, because if we raise the wages of workers, somehow that's going to cause the prices to go up on the products that we sell, and then we will have to raise the prices. Now, here's the kicker that got to me, including what some people say. In any corporation, there are several shareholders. Several stakeholders. There's the shareholders of that corporation if it's a public corporation. There's a business person who owns the company or who runs the company, and then there are the workers. They're all shareholders, and then there are the suppliers who you buy supplies from. How comes in our economic system, the ones that we always ask to pay the price are the workers? Think about this. We've got to pay the electrical company even if they raise their rates. And by the way, your employee has to pay those higher rates themselves. So you're paying the electrical company, the water company, the supply company more money because of inflation. Your worker is going to use more of their monies to pay those expenses that they have themselves. And you, as the employer, would tell the only folks that are not going to get that increase in caused by inflation or corporate greed is going to be the employee. The employee, you don't want to increase his wages, but then you also say, and if we have to increase their wages, we're going to have to stick it solely to the middle class who are buying the products. Nowhere in the argument do you hear that, well, if we're going to pay the workers more, maybe we should pay the executive less, given that, first of all, they do very little work. And we should definitely, if we're going to cut something, cut dividends, because wait a minute, dividends is passive income. You're sitting at your pool as you collect dividends. Okay? So I want you guys to understand that right now, the people who pay the price for everything, inflation, etc., is the worker. So when you see a worker not wanting to unionize, when you see a worker trying to defend the wealthy shareholders who do no work, when you see a worker that is okay with saying, well, if we get more pay, it means solely increasing the price of the product, I am showing you a person with an enslaved mind, with an enslaved mindset. So we have to change that going forward. We have to make people realize that no, they are in fact empowered, and we should all form parts of a union. All right. The next subject I want to discuss today is covers Big Pharma. All right, Big Pharma. Big Pharma. Everybody here, what's the craze right now? The craze right now is the use of a product called Ozempic Ozempic is a brand name that's used to cover diabetes, but there is another brand that's used for weight loss, and I think it's let me give you the name of it. Ozempic versus let's see, Ozempic versus, it's called Wegovy. Wegovy is the same product, exact same chemical, but it's served in a higher dosage for people who are trying to lose weight versus people who have diabetes. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. When the petty thief goes into a 7-Eleven or a convenience store and steals a pack of cigarettes that cost $8-10, when they go into a store and steal a Coke or a chewing gum or whatever, we bring news cameras out and we talk about the crime rate and all these great issues. But drug companies, Big Pharma, that rips us off continuously on a daily basis, taking our income and transferring it to a select few, we have made that legal. Look, Ozempic costs about 89 cents per dosage. 89 cents per dosage. And still make a profit. In France, you can buy it for $83. That's 10 times, that's 100 times what it costs in France. The drug companies still make a profit, a much bigger profit, but they still make a profit. But in the United States, that same product costs $936. That is bigger than grand theft when you take the millions of people that actually get that prescription. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll expand a bit further on the other side. Check this out.
Weight loss drugs seem to be everywhere these days. You've heard the names, Ozempic and Wegovy, game changer drugs, promising big results. but carrying a big price tag. Now, a new study is suggesting these drugs that cost many Americans more than $1,000 per month can be manufactured for as little as $1. And that's with the company still making a profit. Joining us now, the senator calling on drug makers to change that. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator, it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for taking the time. I know fair drug pricing is something you are very passionate about. What's your reaction to this study?
My reaction to the study is that Novo Nordisk has got to substantially lower the price they're charging Americans for two reasons. Number one, you're going to have millions of Americans who are dealing with diabetes, dealing with obesity, not being able to afford this medicine that could really help them. And number two, Anna, if we don't get a handle on this price, Medicare and Medicaid are going to be spending enormous sums of money, which are going to fall back on the taxpayers of this country. Bottom line is Novo Nordisk should not be charging us over $1,000 for this product a month when they're charging people in Germany $59, charging people in Canada $155. The American people, in my view, no matter what your political view may be, are sick and tired of being ripped off by drug companies and paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, including Ozempic.
So why does Novo Nordisk, in your opinion, charge so much more for Americans to get this drug?
I know exactly why, and so does everybody else. Throughout the entire world, there are national health programs, which, by the way, in most cases, guarantee health care to all of their people. And they sit down and they negotiate with the drug companies. And they say, you know what, you can't charge us any price you want. Let's sit down and talk about a reasonable price. Here in the United States, until last year, you had the insane situation where the drug companies could charge any price they wanted for any reason. And right now, by the way, many of the new cancer drugs, other important drugs coming onto the market are costing $200,000, $300,000 a year for treatment. So bottom line is what the United States has got to do is what countries around the world do, is start negotiating prices with the industry. Second of all, let's not kid ourselves. The pharmaceutical industry is enormously powerful. They have over 1,800 well-paid lobbyists in Washington, D.C. right now, former leaders of the Republican Party, the Democratic Party. They're very nonpartisan. They will give money to anybody. Second of all, they put a whole lot of money into campaign contributions. So we are taking on one of the most powerful, greedy forces in Washington. And by the way, the drug companies made huge profits last year, as they always do. So it's quite a fight. But I think it's important that we engage this and that we win it.
We reached out to Novo Nordisk, the company behind Ozempic and Wegovy specifically, and they told us in part this: it's easy to oversimplify the science that goes into understanding disease and developing and producing new treatments, as well as the intricacies of U.S. and global healthcare systems. However, the public debate doesn't always take into account this extremely complex reality. We are proud of the work our scientists have done to advance treatment of chronic diseases to improve lives. We remain committed to working with policymakers to advance solutions to ensure access and affordability for all patients. And they go on to say the majority of U.S. patients covered by commercial health plans pay $25 or less a month for their prescriptions. What's your response to that?
My response is two ways. First of all, they should be proud of their scientists to have developed a very important drug. Second of all, while people who have good insurance may end up not paying a whole lot for their product, the truth is that insurance costs in the United States are enormously high. And the reason is insurance companies have to pay top dollar for these products. Thirdly, there are a lot of people in America who are underinsured or have no insurance at all, and they are forced to pay list prices. So yes, we do have a very complicated and broken prescription drug pricing system in America. But at the end of the day, there remains no reason why we are paying over 10 times more for this product than people in other countries. And this is something the health committee that I chair, is going to take a very hard look at.
Again, a product that costs 89 cents to make. It can be bought in France for $89, but we, the Americans, the suckers who they can tell us anything and we believe it. We pay $1,349, and then the drug company wants to tell you, but you're not really paying that because most insurance plans will only charge you a copay of $25 to get Ozempic. But guess what? They don't tell you. You are the one paying for that insurance policy. And every time these drug companies create their grand theft and take your money, your insurance rates go up. So they lie to you and say, oh, but you're not really paying for it. We are all paying for it. All of us who purchase insurance are paying for all the high price products, even if our copay is $25, because we're paying the premiums for those insurance policies, which means we pay the insurance companies to take our monies, to transfer a money from what we have. Many of these products that they created, or they say they created, came from the general knowledge that we as a society have come up with at our universities, or people who were trained at our universities. Public dollars created all this stuff quite often. So you have to ask the question, when are we going to stop believing the crap that drug companies, the big pharma, tells us? Oh, our scientists develop great products. Yeah, we know. But when it's time to profit from these great products developed by the scientists, it's not the scientists getting dirt rich on that excessive price that you are stealing from us. It's not the scientists and the engineers and the lawyers and the doctors and the patients who test the drugs generally for free. You don't even give the patients who tested your drugs free access to your drugs. It's not them who get rich. It's the ones who do nothing. The shareholders who sit back and wait to make the profit on the backs of those scientists you talk about. It's the exec who goes ahead and says, look how much money we've made the company, so we deserve a bonus. They didn't do a damn thing other than working on the backs of the scientists, the engineers, and collecting the money, legal theft from the American people in the form of $25 copays and thousands of dollars per month in insurance premiums. So I ask you, when are we going to give up mental slavery? When are we going to stop buying into the frivolities they tell us as an excuse to gouge us? When are we going to say no más, as Roberto Mano de Piedra Durán, our great boxer from Panama, said to Leonard? No más, no más, no more punches. Folks, it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to unenslave our mind. It is time for us to rid ourselves of the cancer of for-profit healthcare, and it's time for us to take care of our people.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely so. Absolutely. Join, folks. Anyhow, folks, from British MCP, Medicare people pay for I think from Social Security. Which people pay with employee into Medicaid is paid by taxpayers. Medicare is administered by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, a component of the Department of Health and Human Services. CMS works alongside the Department of Labor and the U.S. Treasury to enact insurance reform. The Social Security Administration determines eligibility and coverage levels. Medicaid, on the other hand, is administered at the state level. Although all states participate in the program, they aren't required to do so. The Affordable Care Act increased the cost to taxpayers, particularly those in the top tax brackets, by extending medical coverage to more Americans. Exactly, exactly. It's a state program, but it's mostly funded by the federal government, even as a state program. In fact, the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care, any state who adopts it is only responsible for 10% of the Medicaid coverage. The government pays 90% of the Medicaid coverage. Think about that. 9 to 1. It costs more money to Texas to keep its people uninsured, but they don't care about your life, people. They don't really give a damn about you. And when you realize that, maybe our votes will be different. We hope. We hope. We hope. We hope. Anyway, folks, let's see what else we got here. Paul Fleming says CNN's Eli Onig reacts to former President Donald Trump attacking Judge Juan Merchan on social media after he expanded a gag order on the former president ahead of his hush money payment. With I'll have to look at that later, Paul. Bree says New York pays 70% of Medicaid. They're fighting for 100%, which they should get. I mean, I think it's sickening that, as first of all, New York is a very rich state, right? So let's make Wall Street pony up. Let's make sure that Wall Street pony up. All right, ponies up, I guess is what I should say. What else have we got here? I think I have. Let's see. The poor and middle class will pay higher prices and be the ones who feel it in higher food costs. Only, again, that's what I'm saying. We only pay those costs because we are mental slaves. If we go ahead and fight the powers, no, they can't do it. They'll take the monies from the shareholder budgets. Come on, man. Let's start thinking outside of the box. But they know that there will always have defenders of the status quo. Eric Hayes, are you reading me? You have to get on the bandwagon that takes care of the common person and stop being a sucker for the wealthy, right? Don't you think that's the right thing to do? We know that's the right thing to do. Anyhow, let's go ahead. I have one last video to play. Let's see. Eric Hayes, Egberto, you got to like your Big Mac and Diet Coke. Actually, you know what, Eric? And a lot of people get on my case for saying this. I actually like McDonald's food. I know it's not good for you. I know that if you put it away for years, it doesn't spoil. It has so much stuff in it. But I must repeat, these guys have the best food engineers, bar none. Because, and again, their performance says it, right? Their fries are made to perfection. Their burgers are engineered well. You know, I mean, I look. It's not the fashionable thing to say, but they make tasty food, just like Burger King too. These guys spend the money to engineer good food. It's not necessarily good for you, but it tastes good, and that's why people go back to it over and over again. I mean, I don't because I know better. I don't exactly. Bree says love Big Macs, but they kill me. I hear you. I love it too. Eric says my son eats nothing but McDonald's. I tell you, the food is good for you. Check his blood though, because his blood work is probably terrible from all those chemicals in there. But again, the food tastes very good. So, there's a program on Netflix where a guy lived on McDonald's every day. And then at the end of the day, his health really deteriorated. I think it's on Netflix. I don't remember what it's called, but it's worth watching. All right. Maywood says, yeah, that's what neoliberals keep saying will happen. Only thing is, facts and data don't back it up. Or show every time they raise wages, the neoliberals scream doom and gloom. But what does happen is business booms. And there's a reason why business booms, because if you give money to people who are going to spend it immediately, that creates business. That's why I always talk about the business class are not all that smart, because they would understand that. But then again, there are other ulterior motives. Bree says Big Macs should come with warnings like cigars. This will make your children fat. Yep. Hell, not your children fat. This will make me fat. Brother J. Ray is in the house. He says the documentary you're referring to was called Super Size Me. Exactly, J. Ray. Exactly. My Ray from the Third Ward. Exactly. That documentary, I watched it and it's like, oh my God, you know. Anyway, I got one more video to show you guys. This one is two Republicans, right? And one is the good girl or good woman. I shouldn't use girl, good woman. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Barbara Comstock, former, I think Republican representative. I think she was out of Virginia. She gave Mark Lauder, who was a former special assistant to the president, sort of a piece of her mind. These are two Republicans going after it about Donald Trump. And she told him a few unfortunate or inconvenient truths. And it's funny how a lot of these Trumpsters are bold in the statements that they make. But you know what? With her soft-spokenness, I think she was plain and got the message across. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
You can get your Bibles usually at a church free. You can also get it online free. On Amazon, I think the best-selling one is probably about $15. So get them a lot cheaper than that. But also, in very serious terms, you showed this earlier, on Good Friday, Donald Trump was very viciously posting that very ugly post that you showed earlier, a bound Joe Biden in the back of that truck. I mean, that was on the day where Christians, are commemorating the crucifixion of Jesus. That's when Donald Trump thought he would post that very ugly, violent picture. So this is very serious because, we know when Donald Trump does these kind of violent, very unchristian things, they have consequences. And you have his supporters do ugly things and threaten people. So that's much more serious and unchristian and dangerous. And these kind of things aren't spoken out about, and people aren't asked to respond on those. And I think we need to see responses from people on those kind of actions.
Do you want to respond to that at all?
Well, I think so much is being made of a video posted on social media. That's literally
but
what
your former colleagues, your former colleagues at the White House, people who've spoken out against Donald Trump, have gotten attacked. People sometimes show up and attack them at their home, threaten them, and threats are made against them. So, this is a real. If we want
to have a serious discussion about political violence, and I think we should have a serious discussion.
The kind of
but I would
political violence where he wants to let those people out of jail in Parliament.
I would also remind you that you had the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and a squad member talking about unrest in our streets. You've had entertainers who have talked about assassinating President Trump, blowing up the White House.
But never a president who wants to pardon people.
We need to talk about political violence on both sides. And when it is only attacked and questioned on one, it rings hollow.
We have never had a president of the United States who has said he would pardon people who have attacked our Capitol Police and said he would let them free. And we've had people excuse that. And that's coming from Donald Trump.
Doug, I want to bring you in here because what we just witnessed are two Republicans having a very real debate, a very passionate one about some of the things that Donald Trump is doing. That is the kind of anger at Donald Trump that the Biden campaign is trying to harness.
That's why Mike Pence, your former boss, is not supporting Donald Trump.
Well, and what the Biden campaign is doing, and I'm going to play a clip from a new digital ad, is trying to get people who voted for Nikki Haley in the primaries to come vote for Joe Biden.
Nikki Haley has made an unholy alliance with rhinos, never-Trumpers, Americans for no prosperity. There aren't that many never-Trumpers anymore.
How do you bring these Nikki Haley voters back into the tent?
I'm not sure we need too many.
Yeah, look, the fact that we're having this conversation shows how toxic Trump has become with mainstream Republicans.
The answer is Donald Trump, and they will come back for that.
Final quick word.
We're better off now than we were 4 years ago.
Look, I know what the polls are saying. The polls are saying this election is close. The polls are giving Donald Trump a real chance of winning the election, and Democrats are hyperventilating, etc. Look, I am going to say this, and I'm going to put myself out on a limb. I have more faith that Americans are going to look at a bit more self-interest near in the late summer when we're getting closer to the election in the fall. I cannot fathom the belief that any marginally thinking American would actually see Donald Trump as a viable alternative to President Biden. I think ultimately they're going to get the picture and they're going to ask themselves if they really, really want to take the risk and put us through 4 years of a nutcase. Because by now, people are seeing this guy as an unhinged nutcase. They're trying their best to make excuses, like this clown that we just heard. Try like best to create false equivalencies, etc. Eventually, it gets to people. Will it get there in time? I actually think it will. And I don't think this is going to be a close election. Everybody's scared that this is going to be a close election that's really close in the swing states, etc. I don't think so. I am getting that feeling that we're looking for a landslide. And remember what I said during the 2022 midterm. I said that red wave that they were thinking about wasn't going to happen. And in fact, I said I thought we would have kept the House. Had the New York folks done their jobs, we would have kept the House. Had the folks in New York done what we said to do and not try to be Republican light in many of their cases, we would have won and held on to the House. But you know how a whole lot of these neoliberals are. They don't want to associate themselves too closely with that which most Americans want, and that is progressive values. Because again, it may offend their benefactors, right? But anyhow, so folks, it's great seeing these two Republicans go at it. It's great to see Comstock take the moral position. I think we're not to be scared. The landslide is coming.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news train.
Yes, the landslide is coming, whether folks realize it or not. The landslide, what is landslide in Spanish? A landslide is el deslizamiento. I think landslide is deslizamiento. Let me see. Landslide in Spanish. I think it's deslizamiento. Landslide. I am forgetting my language. All right, what's going on with me? Deslizamiento. Ha! I remembered it. Okay. All right, let's see. Anyway, folks, we are at 52. Anybody wants to close out the show today, give us a call at 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. Vrit says a generation after renaming National Airport, some Republicans have set their sights on the other D.C. area airport, which they want to name after Donald Trump. In other words, let's go ahead and name an airport after an upstanding citizen, a guy with 3 baby mamas or 4 baby mamas. I don't remember which one it is. A guy who wants to grab women by the you-know-what. A guy who ripped off many Americans. A guy who went bankrupt several times. Is that what we want to name one of our airports? A guy who has 88 counts against him? Is that what we want? Come on, people. Why in the living hell would we want to name anything after Donald Trump? Donald Trump has a following right now. He has a cult right now. But after the cult dies off, when I say dies off, I'm not talking physical death. I mean when they come back to sanity. Do you know what would leaving a name behind on an airport? You know what that would mean? What does it take anymore? Why would anybody strive to be moral? Why would anybody strive to be doing the things the right way? I don't know. Anyway, anybody wants to close out the call? It's your show. 281-823-7747. Bruce says he's not dead yet. I hear you, Bruce. I hear you. Is there such a thing as a progressive conservative? No, there's not. They're mutually exclusive. You can't be a progressive and a conservative at the same time. All right. Conservative says, by definition, conservative wants to keep the things the way they are. All right. But people that have been aggrieved in this country, whenever I hear things like a person of color who call themselves a conservative, I find it amusing, right? I find it amusing because conservatives mean status quo. It doesn't mean moving ahead. When I find a woman who calls herself a conservative, I find it amusing because the status quo would mean you couldn't vote. The status quo would mean that you couldn't open a bank account unless your husband authorized it. Okay? So there is, I mean, I know folks, they could try to combine, but you can't. There's something called neoliberalism and conservative, fiscally responsible. No, when we talk about fiscal responsibility, conservatives have not been the fiscally responsible ones. It's progressives. If you take a look at who balanced the budgets, who've done better economically, it hasn't been conservatives. It has never been conservatives. Conservatives don't like to pay for what they get. They think things are materializing themselves out of thin air. Anyway, folks, I've got to get rid of getting out of here right now. Just want to ask you to do one thing, and that is to support the program. Please support the program by going to politicsdoneright.com/support, politicsdoneright.com/support. And how do you get there? You get there by going to that. I have the link in there, politicsdoneright.support. You can also support us on Patreon. Tom C says rename Leavenworth Prison in Kansas after Trump and then send him there. He should feel right at home. I love that one. I love that one, Tom. I love that one. All right. The other way you can support the program is to go to our Patreon, and that is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Let me go ahead and put that in there again. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, and I just populated that Patreon there. You can also support us by going to our bookstore and getting one of our many books. I have 5 books that I've written, and the latest one is this one here, which is Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man, Racism Didn't Stop My Smile, Hope or Journey Forward. Please support the program. We cannot do it without you, and we're way, way, way behind. So if you would be so kind to also sign up for a newsletter, that's another way of supporting us. Become a paid member of our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I'm going to get out of here a few minutes early. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.